Fifth generation 4Runner resale value continues to defy any sort of logic. I'll include a link to the Murdoch Ford's website in the description down below. They're providing us with this 5th gen 4Runner. Also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get into it. Now, roughly 99% of the resale value is held within the powertrain department. The 4-liter V6 NA with the 5-speed automatic is extremely reliable. It doesn't produce very much power, 270 horsepower, 278 pound-feet of torque. But yeah, the reliability, that's why people will pay the money. Now, my critique to this is that the 4.6-liter V8, the 4.7 V8, and the 5.7 V8 that are all within vehicles that are similar to the price points of these used 5th gens are just as reliable, if not more reliable, than the 4.0 V6. Now, if you want to continue to see me make fun of the stupidity within the Toyota world, well, subscribe so we can keep making these videos. Now, I guess I lied earlier. The fake hood scoop probably adds at least 10% to the resale value. Now, I do think the 5th gen compared to the new 6th gen when it comes to the headlight design and just the overall front end design, it just seems like, as weird as it sounds, it looks better and it's already aging better, even though this has been out for well over a decade, obviously. Now, what's definitely not aged well is tire fitment. The biggest tires you can fit on this are a 275 by 70 by 17. The stock ones are a 265 by 70 by 17. So not super big tires. You pair that with the front skid plate that hangs pretty darn low, and the rest of the stuff underneath that also hangs down pretty low. You know, this thing is definitely capable. I owned one and took it off-road, but man, does it bottom out quite often when you take it through real trails. But at least you got the roof rack thing that I actually really like. I know a lot of people hate it, but I think it looks good. And you know what also looks good? The whole suspension setup with the Fox shocks and the TRD tuned springs and everything. And although I think the exhaust is stupidly placed because it's super low, I think the tip does look pretty nice. Now, the new 6th gen is actually power with the rear hatch, whereas the 5th gen was only manual. The 5th gen actually had a 400-watt inverter. Look at that. Now, space in the 5th gen, although the 6th gen is actually a slightly bigger vehicle, isn't all that different because of the hybrid, but you can get the 6th gen without the hybrid and it has a lot of space. And both of them have the buttons to roll the back window up and down, so that hasn't changed. Yeah, now that I'm looking at stuff, even like the taillights, these are so dated, but for some reason they look, like, am I crazy? They look good. Like, let me know if I'm off base, but looking at this thing, I'm like, you know what? Toyota kind of went downhill a little bit with the design on the new one. Like, the new one's not horrible looking, but this just seems to have held up better so far. This week's giveaway highlight is perfect for Mustang enthusiasts. The first car is a 60th anniversary GT convertible. You can't make a better date night car than that. The next car is a 1966 K-Code Mustang. It's got a V8, it's got a 4-speed manual, perfect for enthusiasts. And this is what you think of when you think of the word Mustang. Now, not only are the 2 Mustangs part of this giveaway, but also $34,000 in cash to help pay for the taxes, and your donations go towards helping children's and veterans charities. So use code BHC or click the link in the description down below or in the pinned comment. This will give you 4x bonus entries with any donation, $25 or more. And speaking of held up better, let's talk about the interior. So although the new one is bigger, the space doesn't really feel that much better. Like, this feels pretty similar. Still have vents in the back, still have USB ports. I love these Softex seats. They're so nice. They're durable. They look good. I mean, this thing has like over 20,000 miles and the seats look brand new. And yeah, the headroom hasn't really changed because you still get the sunroof hump and everything. And you get keyless entry on these newer ones. The newer ones actually had quite a bit. All the windows are automatic, blind spot monitoring with the mirrors, power seats for the driver and the passenger. The driver even gets lumbar support. This even has a 360 camera. Although the camera is potato-esque, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, even the steering wheel materials feel, I don't know, more durable than the new stuff, surprisingly. And then, of course, analog gauges. You guys know I'm a fan of that. So, like, I understand that that probably adds another 1% to the value, maybe more. Actually, I take it back. Analog just adds so much value. Now, the new stuff does have analog, but I don't think they fully captured the essence of the 5th gen with some of the items. I mean, especially the 4-wheel drive shifter. The new one has that little dial thing that, well, I won't use the word that I want to use for it, but I think you guys can think of the word I'm thinking of. I mean, even the transmission shifter just feels better. That's for the rear window. Your heated seat controls, you got little physical kind of dials for that, which is kind of a thing of its own. And I mean, the space in this is great. The materials aren't necessarily the nicest, but they just feel high quality. Yeah, everything feels good in here. And I think we can all agree the cockpit style with the 5th gen where the off-road stuff's up top also added to the cool factor, similar to what you have with the new Ineos Grenadier. So yeah, she's definitely charming, but I mean, these used 5th gens, if it's a late model year like this, they're still selling for like $60,000+. Some are even going for like $70,000 now. And even the older ones are going, if it's a TRD Pro, for around $50,000. And so the values are not only not going down, they're actually going up in some cases. I remember I saw 24 5th gen TRD Pro used sell for $50,000. Now you cannot touch a used 24 for less than like $60,000 roughly. So let me give you guys my logic as we getting into the drive. I purchased my 200 series Heritage Edition used. It's a 2020 2-row Heritage Edition. And I paid about 80 grand for that. A lot of money. The original MSRP in that car was 90,000. So I paid under the original MSRP, but not that much under, right? So I felt like I was paying a lot for the vehicle, but for what it is and everything, I was like, okay, you know what? It's a Toyota, it makes sense. And so that's kind of the mentality I have about these 5th generation 4Runners is the original MSRP on these is like 55 to 57, depending on, you know, how you kind of spec things out. And so when I see these selling for $60,000 to $70,000, I'm like, okay, that's the equivalent of paying like $100,000 for a 200 series. And I think that is just so silly. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that to yourself? You know what I mean? I don't get it. Like, and this stuff is, I mean, it works, but it's pretty dated. And when it comes to the drive, I think there's a lot of character with this. I love the 4-liter, but we all got to admit, like, this has no power. And this, again, as a 200 series owner, when I get into this thing, I'm like, man, is this gutless. It's got character, but it's gutless. So there is a lot to love about the drive of this. Like, the new Toyotas kind of have that tin can kind of shutter feel. The worst is probably the GX and the 4Runner with the adaptive dampers for some reason. The GX with EKDSS actually drives decently well, and then the Land Cruiser drives decently well. But yeah, some of the new Toyotas are like, we call them, I try not to use bad language, so I'm not going to say that. We call them shutter can something boxes, right? I think you guys can fill in the gap there, because it's pretty bad. So I get the appeal, like, as a 200 series owner, how solid this feels and everything. But again, the pricing has to make sense. And so, like, at $60,000, $70,000, it's like, you might as well buy a 200 series. You might as well buy a GX 460. And I've said this in previous videos, but it's like it did not, like, my comments did not penetrate the market, because it's like I make those videos and then the 4Runner values go up even more. Like, this thing has got 20,000 miles on it, and it's worth like 60 grand in today's market, roughly. There's no calming down on the values. It's like, you know what? Since Ben says that 4Runners are overpriced, we're gonna make them even more overpriced. It's so strange to me. It's so strange. I mean, this is a car that's so slow that you kind of have to, like, even downhill, it's like, oh, you got to get into the throttle if you want to speed up a bit. It's so bad. I love the car. And the ride, I love the ride, frankly. You know, the nice thing about this versus the 200 series is this is part-time 4-wheel drive versus the 200 series is full-time, so you don't get as much steering kickback in this as you do in the 200. Look how slow this is. Now, at least it's smooth, but boy, oh boy, is it slow. Like, it can't get out of its own way. But yeah, the reliability, the durability, the simplicity, like, this is a really appealing package. It needs to be 50 grand. Like, that's my personal take. And I have the same I have the same, like, personal take on the 200 series. Like, people paying, like, I just saw a Heritage Edition with, like, no miles on it sell for 160 grand. So stupid. Like, whoever paid that, I'm sorry, but you're dumb. You're so dumb. I get that mine's a black 200 series, which isn't as desirable as, like, gray or silver. But, like, wouldn't you feel stupid knowing that someone paid half of that money for something? Mine had 12,000 miles on it, so basically brand new condition. Someone just paid half of what you just paid. Like, it's just crazy. And I feel like the same thing about these 4Runners. So if you can get a low mileage one, this will never happen, by the way, but if you get a low mileage one for, like, a bit under original MSRP, I think that makes sense given what this vehicle offers. But with where the market's at on these, like,
But here's the deal. I'll say all this, and I bet you guys, and I'm a person who doesn't bet, this 4Runner, I mean, it won't sell like instantly, because the 5th gens do have to, it takes a minute to find a buyer. Someone will pay the money. Someone will come in and they'll be like, here's $60,000 cash. I want my 5th gen, 100%. But that's how I see it. You know, once the 5th gens get below the original MSRP, which is where they were at before some, like, again, there's a bunch of hype injected into the market recently. Before that hype got injected, the prices made sense. Again, I saw one of these Interas with 4,000 miles sell for like 50 grand. I was like, that's a logical price. But that doesn't exist anymore. It's so strange to me. So if you already own a 5th gen, well, I get it. But before you buy a 5th gen, look at a GX460, look at a 200 series, look at an LX570. I mean, you can get LX570s for 70 grand now. That's a much nicer vehicle than a 5th gen. As much as I'm a 4Runner lover, I really am. I love this car. But I love this car when the pricing makes sense. And so look at all those vehicles before you buy the 5th gen. And if you decide, oh, I don't want the LX, I don't want the GX, I don't want the 200 series, it's like, okay, well, I guess if you're willing to pay with your soul, basically, with how much these cost, then go ahead.